Olympic marketing is big business, and some companies will do anything to get exposure in the games.
Parasitic marketing really hurts the Olympic effort.
We talk ad sales and ambushes with the guy who knows. If there was ever a sport built for a global economy, it's women's golf.
We're creating an Olympic experience every week on the LPGA.
Commissioner Mike Wan gives the big picture on the LPGA. Plus, Citi Field has just months to prepare for an all-star moment and more proof that the memorabilia market is off the hook.
And there will someday be sports artifacts that sell for $50 or $100 million.
Going once, going twice. Sportfolio starts now. Hello, I'm Rick Horrow, and welcome to Sportfolio, Bloomberg's weekly inside look at the business of sports. For athletes, it's just about 60 days to London 2012, and for sponsors and marketers, the games are in full swing. Over the last few weeks on this program, we've heard from a number of people involved in selling the Olympics, and the guiding principle seems to be keep it fresh.
The thing I like to say that's different about the USOC and the Olympics in general versus another property is everything we do is custom. There's really no menu to pick. Let me do this, this, and this.
P&G presented me with a new campaign that they're doing to thank moms. They want to thank them for everything they've done, for the work they've put in behind the scenes, and driving their kids to practices, making their meals, picking them up when they fall to pieces. I mean, everything. P&G came up with $1,000 that they're going to give to nearly every Paralympian and Olympian competing, up to $800 to the Olympic Games, to help them get over there and support their kid and, be a part of the movement.
When you wish, they fly just a little bit higher.
The core platform of our Olympic campaign this year is consumer participation. For the last 3 Olympic Games Go World, which was Visa cheering the world, now through social media, we're inviting consumers to cheer through text, through videos, through Facebook posts.
U.S. Olympian Gwen Jorgensen is going for aluminum. Cullen Jones is in it for water-resistant thermoplastic. And Amanda McGrory, she's competing for carbon fiber.
We're trying to connect with the American consumer, with our clients, with our customers, in an emotional way. This is our 200th anniversary. An amazing achievement, if you think about it, for any organization. We want to celebrate the fact that we are 200 years old, but also celebrate in a way, with this Olympic sports program connection, in a way that allows American consumers to connect emotionally to our brand.
So creativity counts, interactivity rules, and it's all about new platforms. In fact, Coca-Cola just introduced a smartphone app called My Beatmaker and declared that mobile is at the heart and foundation for our strategy for London 2012. Rob Prasmark of 21 Sports Marketing joins us, and he's been involved in brokering more than $3 billion in Olympic deals. So it's safe to say he has heard everything. Hey, Rob, everyone's talking about social and mobile, but is that what they're spending money on? What's happening in the marketplace?
Well, I'm not quite sure that they're spending money, the big bulk of money, on social and mobile media. I think the fact that the basics of some of these Olympic sponsorships still are television advertising, point-of-purchase display, and advertising. But I think that everyone has to click the box, especially if you're an Olympic sponsor, on the social media and social applications that are coming forward. And if they don't have an idea, I think there are a lot of questions that could be asked internally and externally about what are you doing with the Olympic Games on social media. So for me, the jury is still out in terms of, will this really move the needle? Will Coca-Cola, sell more product? Will Samsung sell more product? But indeed, everyone has to have a serious look at it and a serious platform going into the London 2012 Games.
Let's talk about the issue that really does come up more and more around Olympic sporting events, global sporting events, Olympics too. Parasite marketing, ambush marketing, call it what you want. A lot of companies that are not official Olympic partners want to get more exposure as more professional athletes with their own sponsors get involved in the games. Does it become harder, though, to keep those lines drawn?
Yes and no. You got to take a look at it from a historical perspective. There's always one or two big companies that participate in what I like to call parasitic marketing. So when a company goes out and kind of cheats the system It gets a lot of publicity, and a lot of people in the media write about it, and it sends a signal to everyone else that is a true Olympic sponsor. Do we really have to spend all this money? The answer is, if they get away with it, the entire system of Olympic sponsorship is jeopardized. The funding system that really goes to train our athletes.
Interesting. But in the social media, you have a space that's supposed to be open to everybody. And how do you stop ambush, parasitic, whatever you call it, on Facebook or Twitter?
Well, it depends on who's doing the writing and the reporting. I read this morning, the IOC has a rule called Rule 40, and insofar as they've explained Rule 40, they've kind of explained to the athletes that they don't want to stop the athletes from, tweeting or going on Facebook, but what they can't do is turn into their own content provider for networks around the world or sell their stories to non-sponsors or Olympic sponsors. It's more of an educational process too, Rick. I mean, a lot of these athletes from around the world don't know that they're not supposed to be doing certain things. So if you go on the USOC website, they've got buried in the athlete section the rules and regulations. If you're a competing athlete, how to tweet and how to use Facebook within the guidelines of the rules. For example, you are not allowed, if you're an athlete, to take video or pictures inside the venue and post those. That kind of content is not to be used, definitely not to be sold. So they want to have the athletes have fun doing it, but don't interfere with the rules.
Now, your company sold a lot of global sponsorships for big-time international events beyond the Olympics. You're working on the 2013 America's Cup, right. 2014 World Cup. Is the Olympics still as special as it used to be for sponsors?
The emphasis is kind of shifting to other parts of the world when you take a look at the Olympics. The games in Brazil of 2016 are going to be absolutely massive. In the United States, it's a very mature marketplace. And, each one of these Olympic sponsors go into it for a particular reason. They're either, the old B2C, business to consumer, and then, of course, they got into the B2B, business to business. The new term is B2G, business to government, and finally, what I heard the other day for the first time, B2E, a business to employee. So, it's a full package, but you've got to know what you're going in with, and you've got to, create it as kind of an integrated platform that hit each one of those four market segments.
Rob Prasmark, thanks for bringing your global knowledge to Sportfolio.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
We'll focus on another crown jewel event in a few minutes, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and it's coming to Citi Field in New York in just 14 months. A very busy MLB executive shares her to-do list later in the program. And coming up, they're the future of women's golf, young, personable, international stars who know how to work with sponsors.
We like to lose the word sponsorship and use the word partnership.
LPGA Commissioner Mike Wan on his sports strategy for success when we return. Welcome back to Sportfolio. Mike Wan took over the LPGA in 2010 as the tour was working through an identity crisis. With an influx of international stars and a recession slowing sponsorships, it was no easy task to sell the game to traditional U.S. audiences. But to Wan, it's all about looking forward and thinking global, and he sees a bright future for his sport.
I believe there's no product like the LPGA to sell. I mean, the players perform, and I don't just mean inside the ropes. I mean, they perform for our corporate sponsors. So that's why I think we've had the resurgence we've had in the last 18 months.
Let's talk about sponsorships. Numbers of sponsors up, dollar value up. Give us a report card.
When I started, we had 23 events. We've added 5 events from then. We've lost an event along the way too. So, of course, the type A in me, I always think about the one we lost, not the ones we gained. But we've learned a lot. I've told our staff many times that companies that live through 2009, 10, and 11, they're one of two things. They're either smarter or they're gone. And there's really nobody in the middle. We had to get smarter. We had to get back to what's really important. Today, if you're an LPGA player and you were going to sign up to play in an LPGA event, the first thing you get is a 2-page form called the customer profile sheet. I remember the first time we showed it to players. Well, what's this, Commissioner? Well, it's a two-sided sheet that says who's paying for this week? Why are they paying for this week? What do they want you to say when there's a microphone in your face? Where should you send your thank you cards? When you tweet or Facebook, what should you post? Those are all things that matter in today's world. And so what I've always said to players is if it wasn't for that person writing the check, we'd all be home playing for a set of Callaway irons and the members. So let's be great corporate partners, and let's we like to lose the word sponsorship and use the word partnership, because sponsorship means I sold something to you and we both walk away. Partnership means we're in this, as my wife would say, for the long term.
Juan's made some sensitive decisions as commissioner. When 16-year-old Lexi Thompson became the youngest player to win an LPGA event, he granted her petition for a full-time membership. He admits it was a special case.
So I'm sure there's a lot of fathers out there that think they're raising the next Lexi Thompson, but her stats at a 16 years old were like no other stats we'd seen before, including how she'd played when she was invited as a sponsor invite to play in some LPGA events. She got invited to play in an LPGA event that had 35 of the top players in the world in it. She won that event by 4 or 5 strokes. At that point, it was difficult for me to say to her or her family or her agent that she needed to prove anything. And since then, she's become a rookie, and she's becoming a pretty incredible rookie.
You feel like she is the future of the LPGA? You've got a lot of stars, clearly.
I think a lot of times in golf, everybody wants one name, one face, one star. I think maybe that comes from Tiger era or Annika or Lorena. But if you ask my sons at home who's the face of the NFL, each one of my 3 boys will give you a different name. I think that makes the NFL even stronger. What's really exciting about the LPGA right now is, depending on where you're from and who you root for, if you're from Taiwan, it's Yanni Sen. If you're from Korea, it's Na Young Choi. If you're from America, it's Michelle Wie, Lexi Thompson, Christy Kerr. All of them play on the LPGA. They don't play together every few weeks or every few months. They play together every week. So I really believe we're creating an Olympic experience every week on the LPGA. So when we showcase our events, and we do it 130 countries, people from around the world are watching their stars and rooting for who they want.
Let's talk about the PGA for a second. Do you consider the PGA and its global institutions competitive, compatible, synergistic?
Well, the reality of it is, over the last 10 or 15 years, when the PGA Tour does well, so does the LPGA. So I can think of them as competition, but the reality is they do rise all boats. And we've proven that, including the last 2 years, where both of us have had viewerships really skyrocket together. And when we've been down, we've tended to be down together. So I think golf tends to ride on all of us together. We do sell sort of against the Champions Tour more. The PGA Tour tends to be all about the TV number a lot more. You know, what's your Nielsen rating on Saturday? The LPGA and the Champions Tour is a lot more about the experience, a lot more about the Pro-Am and the time we're taking. Players have to be engaged with the sponsors. What we realize, if we're not engaged, we don't come back and play there next year.
Most important question, what happened to your golf game since you've become commissioner?
I haven't played my bad shot in 3 years. You know, when you live in a world of Pro-Ams, when you hit a bad drive, you just go play the pros drive. So everyone always says, how's your game? And I think, great, I had 16 pars today. Of course, I participated in about 3 of them. But it's a lot of fun, but I probably haven't played a game of golf that I've really kept score in a couple of seasons.
The LPGA is in the 3rd year of a 10-year television agreement with the Golf Channel, and it's not a primary source of revenue for the tour, but Mike Juan does believe the partnership's already paying off in terms of visibility. And when golf becomes an Olympic sport in 2016, it should be another big boost for the women's pro game. Up next, baseball. What'll it take to bring the All-Star game to Citi Field in New York with half the usual lead time? We'll ask MLB executive Marla Miller. And we'll also compare 2 ball players having All-Star seasons, Josh Hamilton of the Texas Rangers and Matt Kemp of the LA Dodgers. Which one has the best chance of staying hot all year? Bloomberg Sports ran some numbers and gives us some answers, and we'll share them with you next. Welcome back. Josh Hamilton and Matt Kemp have spent the 2012 season tearing up their respective leagues. And although Kemp is on the disabled list with a strained hamstring, statistically they look like the 2 best players in baseball. And so we asked Bloomberg Sports to help us figure out which one is more likely to keep up the pace all season. One thing jumps out. Their power surge seems like an aberration. This season, they're hitting fly balls out of the ballpark at twice their career rate, and both should probably fall back a little. Kemp's plate discipline is on a steady uptick. His percentage of walks per plate appearances has doubled in the 4 years, and it's considerably better than the free-swinging Hamilton. Likewise, Kemp is keeping his strikeout percentage down. And if these trends continue, expect Hamilton's batting average to drop and Kemp's to rise. Thanks to our colleagues at Bloomberg Sports for this analysis. Last week, Major League Baseball announced the 2013 All-Star Game would be played at Citi Field in New York. And that means fewer than 14 months to prepare, promote, organize the game. And the standard lead time, you got to remember, is 2 years, which makes us appreciate Marla Miller all the more for taking time to join us. She's MLB's Senior Vice President of Special Events. And Marla, I'm sure you've hit the ground running. What typically gets done in the first year you'll have to do in a matter of a couple of months, few short months?
We'll start finalizing our schedule of events and complete any of the negotiations with all the venues that will be hosting many of our activities during our All-Star festivities. And
obviously, you got to make up for lost time. But is it more complicated to plan and execute an All-Star game in New York than say, Kansas City, where this year's game is being held?
Well, it's a two-part answer, yes and no. I think it would be if we had not had such a successful experience back in 2008 here in New York. Obviously, when you go to smaller cities, there are less stakeholders that you have to negotiate with, and New York is such a spectacular, world-class city that there are so many individual groups that we do work with to create the success that we'll have in July 2013.
Speaking of that, turn the All-Star Game into a 5-day event, as we saw with Indianapolis and the Super Bowl last year. You could draw a lot of people to a 5-day event, even in a mid-sized Midwestern city. What are the highlights of the All-Star Kansas City 2012 going to be?
Well, we open up on Friday, on July 6th, and we host the All-Star Fan Fest at their convention center, and Fan Fest has become a 5-day event filled with interactive attractions and activities. We have a 5K fun run that benefits 3 of our cancer charities that'll take place on Sunday morning, and a host of other activities that lead into the games that are being played at Kauffman Stadium on Sunday, Monday, and of course on Tuesday.
Finally, should we expect an announcement on All-Star 2014 soon? We understand Minnesota and Chicago are mentioned as likely choices. What do we think?
Well, ultimately, it is the commissioner's decision on where the game is awarded and when the announcements will take place. He's busy reviewing the multiple different cities and clubs that are interested in hosting over the next 3 to 5 years.
Marla Miller, get back to work. You got a busy schedule, and thanks for joining us on Sportfolio.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and have a great day.
Still plenty left on Sportfolio. It was a record-setting weekend in the world of memorabilia. Why is the market so hot for baseball collectibles? Stick around and find out. Get Sportfolio wherever you go on the Bloomberg TV Plus app for iPad. Next week on Sportfolio, an in-depth look at one of the most fascinating sports business stories of 2012. Chicago Cubs owner Tom Ricketts hired Theo Epstein to reboot his front office. Will Theo's second act repeat his success in Boston? Ricketts and Epstein tell me how they came together and what they plan to accomplish. That's next week on Sportfolio. A slew of high-profile baseball memorabilia auctions have been held in the last 30 days, but there's no indication the market's been glutted. Last week, a Babe Ruth jersey from 1920 fetched the highest price ever paid for a sports collectible item, $4.4 million. The buyer was the collector's website, Lelands.com, and the president of Lelands joined Deirdre Bolton on Bloomberg TV Money Moves.
Why did you buy this jersey? It was already at a record price. It seems like if you bought it, you think it can go for more.
Well, it's already going to a good home. It will be in a new home within the next few weeks. But I think this jersey has unlimited potential. I think we could be looking back at it in 5 years and saying that was a great deal, because in 5 years, this jersey should be worth $10 million.
So what, in your opinion, makes it worth more than $4 million now, and just to paraphrase you, in 5 years could make it more than $10 million?
Well, the supply and demand. There are 5 Babe Ruth jerseys in private hands, and there are 20 people that want Babe Ruth jerseys. So that leaves, there's still 19 out there. One of them is going to find their jersey with this one, but there's still 19 guys out there that want a Babe Ruth jersey.
So, Mike, when you say it's going to a good home, can you tell us a little bit more? Is it a private investor? Is it a museum? Who is it?
It will go to one of our private clients, and you know, we have a policy of not discussing those private clients unless they want to be discussed.
But are you still deciding, without naming names, is there still a decision-making process? They are still bidding for it, is what I'm reading between the lines.
I've had a lot of inquiries about other people buying the jersey, you know, on the secondary market. A lot of people have called me, but there's one gentleman who gets first right of refusal.
Okay. In the market for sports memorabilia, and we've talked about some of the other items recently that have come to auction and also gone for record prices, why do you think there is so much demand? Why do you think people are willing to pay record prices for these pieces of memorabilia?
Baseball is so ingrained in our society, and baseball, this is fun stuff. It's worth a lot of money, but it's also fun. And I look at it like art. Babe Ruth was an artist. He was an artist, and his art was hitting home runs. And if you take a Van Gogh painting and put it on one side of a room and a Babe Ruth jersey on the other side and invite a bunch of friends over, my friends, at least, are going to gravitate towards that Babe Ruth jersey. They're not going to recognize that painting. And that's what makes it so much fun.
But it sounds like at least the one thing that's in common is a sentimental connection for one reason or another, either to baseball, to the Yankees, to Babe Ruth, or when you talk about paintings, for a lot of art collectors, it's a similar thing in that there's a sentimental connection for some reason to that artist's work or that particular piece.
You're absolutely correct. And that's why paintings sell for some paintings sell for $100 million. And there will someday be sports artifacts that sell for $50 or $100 million.
And Mike, I noticed here on this table, so you not only brought, there's pants there, is that right?
Yes, those are Babe Ruth pants. I call those the $1 million pants. At this time, we own those pants, and you know, I think it could be the first pair of pants that actually brings $1 million. Of course, I'm open to offers.
But I mean, where do you find these? I mean, is this something that somebody finds in his or her basement and then says, oh my God, this is like Babe Ruth's part of his old uniform?
It's possible. We've dealt with people, the last Babe Ruth uniform that we handled was worn by the couple's children for Halloween. Okay. Here are the kids walking around trick-or-treating in $1 million, you know, multi-million-dollar uniform. So people do find these things in their attics. Families of players have them. Sometimes institutions have them. And, you know, it's just, there's such a, it's a treasure hunt every day.
And the baseball?
The baseball is actually a Babe Ruth signed baseball. It's valued at around $40,000. We have a similar baseball up online at Lelands.com in our auction that's currently going on.
Mike, thanks so much for coming in, talking to us about the pieces and bringing them. We appreciate it. Mike Hefner, president of Lelands.com.
Thank you.
That will be all for this edition of Sportfolio. Thanks to Rob Prasmark, Mike Wan, and Marla Miller of Major League Baseball for joining us. And thank you for watching. Remember to check out our webpage at Bloomberg.com for more video and past episodes. Next week, Theo's second act. I'm Rick Horrow. See you then.